I did promise you a true crime program tonight. That's true crime on the politics side. Here's the rest. And this might be the biggest development in the David and Celeste investigation. Of course, since the police, spent hours raiding that singer's former Hollywood mansion back in September. The Los Angeles Times just broke the news that an LA County grand jury is now hearing evidence submitted by prosecutors related to that runaway Celeste's death, or what police are now actually calling a murder. The Times calls this an investigative grand jury, something that's used to subpoena witnesses and other evidence. While this kind of grand jury can recommend charges, it can't do the actual indicting. But true to form, the LA District Attorney isn't commenting. We did get this statement, non-statement, whatever you want to call it. It says, in accordance with longstanding office policy and California law, we are not at liberty to discuss or disclose any information about grand jury proceedings. There you go, end quote. So that didn't get us anywhere, but now it's official. The investigation into the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez is, in fact, a murder investigation. And here's how we know that. We told you on Monday that police got a court order barring the medical examiner from making Celeste's autopsy results public. The LA Times now says that the LAPD petition for that order, because it was the LAPD that demanded it, right? The order says, and I quote, an investigation into murder. That's the LAPD's words, murder. And it claims that disclosing death details could, and I quote, endanger the lives of witnesses and or compromise the investigation. Wow. All right, so they're a lot further ahead than I thought. And this new reporting comes amid conflicting reports about the state of Celeste's remains, specifically whether her body parts had been frozen for weeks or even months before ending up in the trunk of David's Tesla, where she was discovered on September 8th. Remember, one day after her 15th birthday, clearly dead at age 14. Earlier tonight, I dug into all of this with the face and the driving force of TMZ, my old friend Harvey Levin. Here's our conversation. So, Harvey, an investigative grand jury, this was not something I expected.
Oh, there's so much in this case I don't expect. It's unsurprising to me, and I'll tell you why, Ashleigh. You know, and we know, we've reported this, that the LAPD is looking at David as a suspect. There were a lot of people in David's world, we are told, and people who were coming in and out of that house for many, many months around this whole time. And so there's a big circle around David. And my guess is the LAPD wants to talk to a bunch of them and others connected and not connected to David. When police come a-calling, a lot of times people clam up, and they clam up because they want to protect themselves, they want to protect a friend, they get scared. Lawyer says don't talk to them. What an investigative grand jury can do is say, we're going to subpoena you. And unless you assert your Fifth Amendment rights, unless you have something that would incriminate you, you got to answer our questions. So these investigative grand juries are often used in cases where the LAPD or other police departments are having trouble getting information from witnesses. So that's why, to me, it's unsurprising that they've called this investigative grand jury. Plus, they can subpoena documents, videos, things like that.
What I'm also finding weird and bizarre and just, I guess, unprecedented is this battle between the coroner, the medical examiner, and the LAPD. The LAPD saying none of this business is true, but your sources impeccably saying it is true. And I'm wondering if this security hold that the LAPD demanded the court impose on the medical examiner, meaning, ME, you can't say another word, is because maybe the ME hasn't given the entire file to the LAPD yet?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. The medical examiner has not, even as far as I know, officially determined a cause of death or the fact that they can't find one because of the state of the body. I'm told they may never be able to really determine what caused her death. I do not know what the state of toxicology is. I just know there are problems or were problems with it because of the body. Now, the medical examiner and the LAPD have not gotten along for several years. I had somebody in LAPD grouse to me last week. We're the ones, you know how we found out about the cause of death for Matthew Perry through the media? They found out, one of them found out from us, Matthew Perry's cause of death. So there are hard feelings there. And when you look at what's going on there, it turns out the LAPD, this is the second bite of the apple. In September, mid-September, they went to a judge and said, we want to get the ME's file sealed, and the judge wouldn't do it. The judge said there's not enough evidence to justify sealing it because it's really unusual to do that. So they went back again a few days ago, and this time they got it. And the ME is angry. I mean, I have never in my life seen the ME come out with a press release. I mean, they're way back when I was a kid. I remember I was 10, 9, whatever. And I remember watching TV when Marilyn Monroe died and Thomas Noguchi came out, who was the coroner way back then. And that's the last time I heard from a coroner. And now they're coming out with a press release saying that we believe in transparency like the LAPD doesn't. And I just haven't seen that.
And most people now can't believe you were old enough to remember stuff when Marilyn Monroe died. I'm just going to put that on the table right there. Let's go back to the business of waterlogged fingers. They couldn't do what was called a live scan of Celeste's body parts because the fingers were quote unquote waterlogged. Can you explain what that meant?
Well, I can tell you that quote is from a medical examiner's document. We put it on our website. You're essentially saying what it is. It means that the fingers were in a state where you couldn't get a fingerprint that would lead to the identity of the person. It was, I suppose you could say, blunted by water. And what does water mean? I mean, it could mean a variety of things, but it does kind of align with the notion of frozen. So again, what I'm saying to you, and I want to make this really clear, the LAPD is disputing what we said about the body being partially frozen. The medical examiner, well, I can say our sources connected to the medical examiner say that it was partially frozen when found.
It seems just odd to be partially frozen when found. I could imagine it being partially frozen at some point, but take a steak out of the freezer, leave it on your counter, and it's not going to smell for days and weeks, long until after it's thawed. But I am curious about the notion that it's possible the LAPD is mincing words, and that at some point Celeste's body may have been frozen until whomever wanted to discard it figured out what to do, and then eventually she ended up in the trunk decomposing.
So here's kind of the way I look at it, and this is me from the outside looking in, so it's not like I got sources on this. I do know this, that the LAPD is making a big, big deal of this mysterious trip David took to a remote area of Santa Barbara in the middle of the night back in the spring, where he spent a couple of hours there. And that's a big deal. And it sounds to me like that's where they believe the body was in some way dismembered. I mean, that's the way it sounds to me. There are some people who think maybe that's where Celeste died, and I don't know, but there's the Santa Barbara trip is really important to the LAPD. I know that. So if that's the case, if something really bad happened to Celeste in the spring of this year, we are talking, say that was April. You got May, June, July, August, and then at the beginning of September, they find her body. Where was this body for 4 months? How on earth could the body just be laying out there, right? And I was told the body wasn't buried. Now, again, that's one source, but it's a good one. But where was this body for 4 months? And I can't answer that. And I'm perplexed by it. And the only thing I've been told is don't necessarily use logic here.
Well, I tell you what, I spoke with Dr. Dupree, who's a medical examiner, a former medical examiner, and she said if the body parts were frozen at any time, they can determine that through the change in the cellular, comportment, and they will be able to tell if that was the case. I'm also super fascinated that finally the word murder is being used. And it's being used in the court petition, as I understand it, that one of the detectives, Detective Joshua Briers, I think he's with the robbery homicide unit, put in this petition to the court, first of all, acknowledging that there's a grand jury, so there's that, and second of all, saying that this is, quote, an investigation into murder. This is according to the LA Times. Is this the first time you've heard the words murder officially being used?
No, because again, we've been told, what to me, it's been characterized as a homicide for weeks now, internally, and that David is a suspect. So it's not hard to connect those dots.
I don't know. I think murder is a long way from homicide. That can be an accident. That can be all sorts of things. But murder is intentional. That one surprised me.
When you look at it, I mean, I hear what you're saying. The cops, if this were, say, manslaughter, then the cops would know what happened, and there would be some resolution. There's foul play here. I mean, Ashleigh, the body was cut up. I mean, it was clear. The LAPD has always believed this was foul play.
Yeah. Why do you suppose they're saying that to reveal, that divulging any of the medical information, again, medical information, would reveal or tend to reveal the ongoing investigation and the integrity of the investigation, as well as the identity and or informants who are cooperating with law enforcement? It could endanger the lives of witnesses and or compromise the investigation. This is about the medical information.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how the medical examiner is going to release informant information. That seems to be in the province of the LAPD. So I don't quite understand that. I will say that your view seems to be shared by the medical examiner himself, because according to the medical examiner, there should be transparency here, and this should be released. What I don't know is, was the medical examiner a part of the case when the LAPD petitioned to have it sealed, or was it just kind of, one day they get an order saying, by the way, the judge just ordered it. I don't know if they were part of this, but it's really interesting to me that the LAPD failed at this once and then had to go back a second time. So the medical examiner must have clearly known the LAPD was trying to do it, and they seemed to oppose it because the LAPD had to go back a second time.
Well, listen, I think it sends us into the holiday with a lot more questions than answers and far more mystery. I'm just going to wish you a happy Thanksgiving and all the folks behind you, your TMZ family as well. Thank you, Harvey. So appreciate this.
And right back at you, Ashleigh.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.